Hello everyone, it's Greg from the Plastic Crack blog to here, and you're joining me on my first ever live stream. Today I'm going to be painting some Tohaa and just having a little bit of chat whilst I do it, talking about maybe a bit of the new Daedalus Falls, maybe about well, I'd like to talk a little bit about some hobby fatigue tonight, but yeah, it'd be great to have you guys along and see how we're doing. So let's move over to the painting camera. So here we go. Oh, we have people in already. Nige, nice to see you. Hey, Lawrence, thank you for joining. Grab a beer with me, and let's get going. So tonight I'm painting predominantly my gao-rael. He's become a staple really in my army at the moment. I used to like running the Spitfire, however, this seems it just seems to be really good as a defensive fire link. So I'm really enjoying that at the moment, and yeah. Go, go get that beer. Hey, Luke. Expecting to see me painting? Well, I'm literally just set up, mate. So give me a second, and I'll start mixing some paints. So let's see. It's quite interesting, really, the level at which I forget the color recipes that I use. It's only been a couple of weeks since I've been doing these, and already I feel like I've forgotten exactly what made them up. So I switch a lot between GW paints and Vallejo paints, although I seem to be moving more and more towards Vallejo, which I think is kind of normal for Infinity players. So I'm going to try and get something that matches what I've had before. Luckily, it's still on my wet palette from a couple of weeks ago, so I can at least see what I need to be making up. Right. See how this goes. Ideally, I quite like batch painting just because you don't seem to cock up your colours as much, but I find that quite difficult when you're coming back to something after a long time. So we'll just have to see how this gets going. I'm still going with the traditional symbio armor. I think that's predominantly just because I've already done that. Clean that water. Cheers, mate. I think that's predominantly just because I've already got them done. Unfortunately, I think even my Spiral Corps is going to look like the ones I previously got. I think they are some really nice ones. I really like the blue ones that they've done, and I think it's quite interesting that they're doing that in relation to what they eat. I don't know if they've put out if there's any specific guidance on what it is that they eat that changes their colour, but I find that quite interesting. It is taking me quite a long time to try and match this colour from before, unfortunately. So I'm having a bit of a moment with Tohaa recently. Um, I think I was all ready to sack them off and try something new after haven't played them for a very, very long time. Um, although I'm kind of changing my mind now that we've got the now that we've kind of got Spiral Corps coming out. I think it's a new and interesting way to play it. I thought it was really hilarious how people have thought that they're pretty much unplayable now that Symbiomates have changed. Had a game the other night actually with James against his Pano, and to be quite honest, I didn't notice any difference. I think people will get better at forcing you to use them immediately, um, but but for the time being, I think that they're still pretty good, and I'm not too worried about that. But I am considering changing after having done them for so long. Um, there we go. Right, finally getting some colour to actually look like how I want it. So let's start getting this on the model. Sorry, David, there was a lot of questions, and Bostria actually had some of them that he didn't want to talk about. I can't remember what the exact question was that you put forward, but unfortunately, he was really stuck for time as well. He said he'd just got out of a board meeting, which was only meant to last an hour, and it actually lasted 4. And as a result, we sort of rushed through for 20 minutes. But he was nice enough that he invited me back to interview him, I think, at the end of the year after Gen Con. So I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully we'll be able to get your question in there. Ah, the 2-day, 1-day events. Yeah, yeah. I think in general, actually, like just discussing that now, perhaps I haven't put a video up, as some of you might have noticed, about the UK Masters. And I suppose there's a reason for that, really. I think it was my first 2-day event, and I was quite excited for it. Actually, I was very excited for it, and it wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. I was expecting a huge, huge event, and I was expecting a lot of turnout, and I suppose there was only about 20 people. I was expecting, I suppose, a different venue, and very much sort of had like a satellite event in my head, and unfortunately, it just wasn't that. Um, it was a good couple of days, but I think Adam, as a result, has decided that he's going to um, keep that to a 1-day, which I suppose would make it better, I guess. But yeah, I was really disappointed with how I played in that tournament. I think I think I only won 1 game, which was just genuinely awful. And I suppose one of the things I wanted to talk about a little bit today was about sort of not necessarily tournament fatigue, but I suppose I've been playing a lot recently and been on a massive, massive losing streak, and it's surprising just how much that kind of impacts on your motivation. Um, it's I don't know. I suppose I found myself in a competitive streak recently because I treated it, I suppose, as you might treat a sport. I really wanted to do well. I wanted to give it all my all. So I was putting a lot of time into preparation, putting a lot of time into painting, getting lots of practice games in, um, and really just hammering the shit out of it to the point of looking at kind of like maths and stats to try and work out what would be the best units to complete missions. Um, and nothing, as you'd expect, after all that preparation, nothing went to plan on the day, and that really knocked me a little bit because I've got the satellite coming up soon, and that was pretty much the preparing for it. So I've got the satellite in 2 weeks' time, and I'm not really sure how that's going to go. But we recently had a tournament at the Harlequins, which was a great day as per usual. And the Harlequins kind of has a feel, especially, well, I suppose I feel the Harlequins isn't necessarily as competitive, and that's based upon the people that go. You have a lot newer crowd there, um, And usually you're not doing standard ITS, you're doing something interesting like escalation leads, doubles, um, limited insertion days, and that's really fun because it changes the game up. So that was, I think, 2 weeks ago now that we went there, and it was genuinely such a good day because I feel like, well, not only I did okay, but I also went in with a different mindset, and that really helped. I think it just I put less pressure on myself. I sort of thought about individual moves less, so I wasn't necessarily analysis paralysis the entire time, and just relaxed and just had a much better day. Um, and consequently, it showed in my results because I had a major, a minor, and a loss. So that put me fifth. I think it was out of 16, I think, in the rate tables. So not a massive tournament, um, but that's better than the last places that I've been picking up for a while. How are we doing on the chat? Yeah, I think a north satellite would be interesting. I don't know how that would go. I suppose interestingly, when we're at the Midlands for this one, the gaming split in terms of who actually did well, the London guys absolutely thrashed the north of us. So I don't know how many people would be willing to travel that far, but it's certainly an idea. I think so. Jumping back a few points, Lawrence, I apologise. I've not been looking at the chat whilst I've been painting. People are travelling to Wales. So Cardiff is Firestorm Games, and it's a purpose-built place that are hosting the satellite event. And I suppose there are a few places that put in a bid to become the satellite event, and they they are set up for it. Um, and this isn't taking anything away from what Adam does. I think Deathbird does a fantastic job of hosting tournaments, and it was a great day. However, um, the venue at Firestorm just looks phenomenal. That's all it is. It is a gaming centre. It is purposely built for it. So I think you're already a little bit ahead there, and I suppose that's their core business is putting on big tournaments like that. So I think that's why they got it, and that's why we're going there. Um, what else have we got? 3D printers. 3D printers. Yeah, I think Dave's right in terms of actually hosting a satellite event up the north. It's going to be a little bit more difficult to find a venue of sorts. Um, it would sort of have to be city centre, and I think just the financial cost of setting that up is going to be difficult anyhow. Regardless, it's going to take a bit of doing, but I welcome the challenge if anyone fancies doing it. It's less to travel. Okay. The shout for Runa. Um, I'm not that excited by Deshat, if I'm honest with you. I think of the other things that are coming out, I think Foreign Company looks a lot better. Um, I think, like most people, I'm pretty hyped for Shazvasti. Um, I'm probably going to go down the route of Spiral Corps for a little while, although Invincible Army does keep uh, pulling my eye, which is difficult because I've already got so much bloody stuff. Does it have to be city centre? I suppose not, but when you think about the satellite event, I guess you want something to be quite inclusive. And the difficulty is you're going to probably need to be near a train station for the people that can't get there otherwise. I think you could increase it like that. If it's not in the city centre, I'm sure you're probably going to get some free parking though, which would be useful. But I think city centres are generally better. Yeah, the Forge is a becoming an ever popular venue. I think I'm constantly seeing people having it, used for their days. Altrincham Gaming Club, the gaming club that I'm actually a part of, is looking at hosting a tournament there itself because, like you say on the chat there, Dave, it is free, which makes a hell of a difference, to be quite honest with you, because it means the people that are putting on don't have to front all that money. So I think it's a lot easier to get going. So as I've been doing this, I've just realised I've not added any flow improver or medium to this paint, and as a result, I'm getting a little bit of weird texture on here. Don't necessarily think you can see. And what I've done is thin the shit out of this, and now it's too thin. So I've got, I suppose at the beginning of the year I set it off trying to do sort of 1 mini a day, so 365 by the end of the year. I've properly fallen off the bandwagon, but I'm hoping that this will get me back to doing some and get them back up and ready, because I've got a huge influx, I suppose, coming with the spirals box, and a lot of backlog of tack that I'd like to get going. Now that the decent stuff is coming out, like the front of it, I'm kind of ready to go with those guys. But I do want to get these finished. What are you guys working on at the moment? I'm also thinking, as I'm doing this, is probably would be good if we had some background music. So I might take a minute to get some of that on as this dries. Luke, I'm extremely jealous that your spiral has arrived. I did have a half hope that my retail copy would be here today, but that's not to be. What sort of board are you printing, Dave? Yes, definitely cheeky. Oh, thank you, Dice Tales. Song for you. Right, I will let this coat dry, and I will just sort out some music in the background if I can. Another month? Well, that's incredibly depressing. I didn't think it was going to be that long, if I'm honest with you. Let's get some music up. Saying that, probably you guys have probably got some of your own music in the background, which won't be as useful. Unfortunately, I think that YouTube counter isn't working, which is a shame. Let's get that down. Oh, we're on one camera. That's not what we wanted. Let's go back to two. Right, music. Obviously a very highly professional stream here. Anywho. Right, let's... No, it's not having it. I'll have to do that as an upgrade for next time, unfortunately, so you have to hear me drone on for a little bit longer. So, Luke, with those Spiral Corps, how are you finding them in terms of, I think I was talking to you the other day about just how poor the old Tohaa models are to put together. How are you finding them to put together? I have made this far too thin, unfortunately. That's good. Yeah, I always prefer it when there's sort of those new pieces where you're not sticking on all the arms, all the air legs. I think the worst bit for me is just trying to get that gun at the end when you've already stuck the hands on. So that's good. So I'm just really roughly blocking this guy in. Get this orange ready. I think what I'm going to do whilst that gets going is I'm going to wash the armor plate. So I've laid down a base color of deck tan for my Tohaa. I think it's quite a good off kind of white. And then what I do to get the color that I want is I use the old GW washes. I've got so much airbrush over this, I can't remember what it's called. Seraphim Sepia. And then I thin that down with a bit more medium. Medium, not water, because I want it to keep still the properties of a wash. And then I'm just going to go over all the armor plates. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get it really thin because I can always keep going over if need be. I'll fix that. So it's about a 3-to-1 ratio of medium to wash. Make sure my brush is properly dry. What's going on? Evening, Ed. Nice to see you. Yeah, that's not a bad idea, Dave. That's certainly something I could look at doing. Getting those out done live. Not a problem at all. Not a problem at all. At the minute, I'm just using Lamia Medium, although I was watching a video yesterday where this guy made his own. So he used deionized water, which he got from the chemist for, I think it was £1.50 for 2 litres, and he mixed that with a Vallejo matte medium, and apparently worked the same. So as long as you don't get the one with the varnish finish, it looked pretty good. So I think I might try that, although I'm genuinely not that bothered because I don't go through medium at much pace, even though I use it all the time. I have been using Flow Improver a lot more, but I tend to now just keep that to my airbrush paints because sometimes I find, like I've just done with that paint there, it won't dry for a very long time. So I imagine it'd be quite useful for wet blending, but not necessarily in general. I suppose it could be alright for thinning down washes because it gives you a little bit more time to move it around if you're worried about it drying in awkward places. But the old Lamian's alright. Just try not to go too thick with this. But super quick way of painting miniatures. Ed, I decided to call this primed after someone very knowledgeable suggested that as a name. Although they were informed that rights weren't given to them afterwards. Ah, okay. So you've tried that. That's really interesting, Luke. I'll have to give it a go. Yeah, I don't know. The thing is, I kind of want to try all these things, and obviously making it in batch is going to be a lot cheaper than buying it from GW. But I suppose more and more, just my table space gets taken up by these huge bottles because I've got all these now things to sort of strip minis, to clean airbrushes, to doing all sorts. So maybe I'll have a little think about it. How have you found it in terms of consistency? Does it do what you want it to do? Do you reckon that would be Netflix worthy, Ed? Because I'm only interested in signing up them big deals. Right, I was trying to avoid his Symbio armor bit, but fuck it, I'm just gonna go over the entire thing so I get good coverage and I haven't missed any gaps out, and then I'll paint white over that later before I wash it. Should be good. Ah, okay. Does it tend to separate then your medium concoction? Um, I suppose, does it change when you get out the bottle? Do you notice? How many boobs am I willing to throw in? Nige, I think the reason for having two water pots was when GW originally put this out. The idea was to have metallic paints in one and non-metallics in the other because of the little flecks of metal supposedly left behind. I think they thought that it could taint your paint, but I've never really had an issue with it, if I'm honest. I'm still getting used to where this bugger is. Come on. Oh, we nearly had it. Not quite having it. I'll work out as time goes on how to do it. Right, that's interesting. That's interesting. I'll have to give it a go. As I'm mixing this up, even this is starting to dry on my palette. So I'll add a little bit more medium before, because it's going to end up coming out chunky, and put like a little film over the guys. I suppose as you're talking about milkiness, I guess if you don't shake up your Lamia medium anyway, it does tend to separate a little bit, just like everything else. Right, I'm going to make some of this up because that is going horrible. Oh, that is way too much. This down a bit more. So I don't know if you guys can see very well on the camera. The bases that I'm using at the minute are from Dovige. I am really, really happy with these. God, the autofocus on this camera shite. I am really happy with it because it has grooves cut out for you, and you just add a little bit of acrylic on. So I really, really dislike painting on bases. The lines, I really, really dislike it. However, I know Antinosities do their metal compass bars, which are nice, but I'm not entirely sold on them because I find them quite difficult to apply. I think they don't necessarily go on as well as they could do, or maybe that's just me because I know people that haven't had issues with them. But as you kind of bend them on, I also found that they came off and it didn't fit any of my my trays after that because they actually extend your base a little bit longer, whereas these are ultimately part of the base, the same size, which is good. Um, I just really, really like them. They come in different colours, and he's now done some pre-painted bases, which I've got some here actually. They are absolutely phenomenal. So I'm thinking about these for my JSA. They are pre-painted in the sense that I think what he's done, as he has put a piece of, not paper, but a print. He's put a print over them, and he's somehow got it to adhere to it. And then he's cut the plastic out. I don't even know how he's to cut the plastic out when it's there. It does fall apart when you get them out, but they're just phenomenal. They're really, really nice bases, and I think they're going to be for my Invincible Army because they look quite, you know, quite oriental. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Right, I have now made this a little bit too thin. So I know it's too thin because it's not tainting the colour I want in the recesses. And it's kind of just glazing it rather than washing it. So the other guy, ooh, we're on. Yeah, I think it's got the potential to look really, really nice, but I just don't enjoy working with etched brass, which is a shame. But these are just, I'm really, really loving them, really loving them. So the other guy I'm painting tonight, so I'm painting up a gao-rael with a sniper, who, as I said before, I really like defensively because he's just badass. Having 2 wounds, having the MSV and the sniper, I think is great. And when they're in a link team, it's the burst is quite nice with the shock. The other guy I'm painting up is the kotail. For the longest time, I've been playing armies in games where I've got not simple units, but kind of just sturdy, no tricks. And then Infinity's all about the tricks. So I've never really taken hackers. I've never really taken a lot of things, mines, tricks, and I'm going to start bringing the coat out because he's got Hollow Projects level 2 and he is fucking cool. I really like the idea of running 3 Chaxers as this guy, and then when someone goes to shoot him, popping out a Spitfire. Also, considering he's got super jump, it makes him very good, and a specialist, makes him very good to get into places to do the mission. Right, are you having a white face? Go with that. Right, he's washed. Thoughts on the new dungeon crawler? So, dungeon crawler. So, when I think about the dungeon crawler, I'm partially excited, partially not. I think Dungeon Crawl is a fantastic set of games, and I never really got into Aristea. I think I focus a lot on a singular game, but I do like the idea of dungeon crawlers. I really, really do. And considering they're going to be metal minis, that quite excites me. Their in-house production, that excites me. They're not getting these plastic ones from China, which hopefully will make it better to keep with time. I'm not as disgruntled as other people that it is a Kickstarter. I was surprised because I thought that they would want to keep all the profits in-house, not share any of that, and I thought they'd have the resources to do that. But you see even other big companies, like I was watching Critical Role the other day, and they're making an animated series, um, and they've gone down that when I was sure that they'd have the funds to do it. So maybe there's something I'm missing out on. So I think it'd be really good. The one thing that concerns me is that Carlos hinted that you would be able to get a few exclusive Shazvasti miniatures in there. If that's the only way to get some of the Shazvasti miniatures, I think a lot of people are going to be pissed, really pissed. Eventually, they'll probably come round to the main Infinity games, like who are the heroes? Are they in Foreign Company or Deshat? You've got all those special characters that can now be in a link team from Aristea, so it's a good way of joining them up. But I don't know if they don't do the same miniature in Infinity's full stop. I think it's going to be horrible because people have waited a long time for Shazvasti, and to wait and mess around like that, I don't think people are going to be happy. So it was interesting because they said that they were going to go through Kickstarter just because of the size of the minis, and that needs certain upfront cost. So I imagine it's going to be quite big because to be a dungeon crawler, you need a lot of miniatures. So you'll probably get a considerable amount of generic guys, which would be hilarious if that's how they really do Praetors and Gakis. Um, thinking about it. So I don't know. I'll have a little look. I'll be tempted to pre-order, but I don't know whether I'll use it as much. I just don't seem to play anything other than the main game right now. So Dave, I'm just reading your comment. Thing is, they do exclusive to manga, painting books, army books, etc. So doing something with Kickstarter isn't that strange. Could you expand on that a little bit, Dave? I'm not entirely sure what you mean. Luke, I am also worried about it. It's probably going to be very expensive. Very, very expensive. Luke, welcome to the chat, my man. Thoughts on the new Shazvasti? If I'm honest, I haven't really had a great look at it. I've not really been on Army that much to soak in the newness, only what I've sort of seen fly about on Facebook. And I don't play Shazvasti, so we had a game the other week at Harlequins. I don't know why I'm forgetting the name. At Harlequins. What do you think that would have changed for your army that I played? That'd be a good way for me to relate to it. I see. Yeah, I see what you mean, Dave. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. Um, yeah, I guess they did do the RPG, but then I suppose I think I'm probably quite wrong in this. Oh fuck, I've just dabbed my finger on some wash. Um, I think only Colonel Varunen. I'm probably wrong. I thought only Colonel Varunen had made it into the main game. But yeah, certainly they do exclusives elsewhere, so it's probably not really going to change what we're used to. I was just surprised that I imagine Kickstarter will take a reasonable percentage of it. I suppose it's a no risk way of doing it, making sure. But then they could easily hold a pre-order system, which I think everyone would buy from. just going to see if I can get the messages up on my phone because I keep turning around to have a look at the screen and it's not necessarily the best. Luke has just sent me a picture of his Lamia medium, which you can see there that he's made. So I'll do a little video on that at some point because I think it's really easy to make medium up in huge batches, and GW charges an unrealistic price for it, as you'd expect, but definitely worth doing. So can I get the live messages on here? I don't know if I can. Live chat. Here we go. Live chat. That is Luke's special fluid. Lovely jubbly. Right. That's a much better way of doing it. Yeah, definitely, man. Although it's so cheap to get hold of, you know, I can certainly pick up the stuff. That is not a problem at all. Just double check that the volume's off. Right, cool. Now I've got a little screen in front of myself so I can see what's going on, rather than keep turning over to this screen. Whilst I've got you guys on, I have been trying to make deals with Corvus Belli. Carlos has talked about sending me some exclusive previews like you see on Beast of War and GMG. However, my subscriber base is not big enough. So if you're currently watching and you are not a subscriber, get on it and make sure you click the bell as well so that it comes up every time a video comes up and you don't miss out on anything. Over the coming weeks, there's going to be more live streams, different chats. It's not all going to be painting, but reviews, Nigel's products, some other scenery. There's lots and lots of stuff going up, so don't miss out on it. I'm also just conscious I keep leaning back. So let's move this a little bit. There we go. Right. So I'm just trying to thicken these. I was going to say thicken these layers up, but that's not really what I'm doing. I'm just trying to give it a bit more coverage. I'm using very thin layers of paint at the minute, so it's taken more than I would like. But I've got the colour so right, I don't want to redo it on my wet palette. Right, once that's drying, I'm going to get some white on the go. So let's see if you guys can do with a piece of white card actually. See if this works. Oops, if I get it in the right place. Does not seem to like the white background at all. So we'll leave that. I think I have to change the autofocus at some point. Oh, that's interesting. This chat is not updating, but the other one is. Luke, probably not change your list. Massively running an avatar. There's a camo engineer. It would have been nice. A lot of people I've talked to concerned with Cheskin. Yeah, I suppose that's one thing I've seen about the Cheskin. People going a bit crazy for it, although I didn't entirely know what it meant. So Fatality level 2 is always nice. Definitely. Oh dear. Have I been filming on the Osmo? So I did do a bit of filming on the Osmo. I haven't done a great deal of it recently. I did no filming um, over at Harlequins, and I think that was another thing. So when I talk about kind of going in with a lot of pressure on myself to try and do well on the day, I've also sort of been really trying to ham out some content, um, which hasn't always been the healthiest way of going. So it's quite difficult when you're at a tournament to get some footage in unless you've got a reasonably good break. But I'm really looking forward to making some videos at Cardiff in a couple of weeks' time. I think that would be a really good opportunity because I've got 5 rounds. Um, I've got the night, and I'm sort of just going to have a good time and have some fun. So I'll make time to film, which will be cool. And I suppose I'm slowly getting more experience with the Osmo Pocket. I'd like to try it for battle reports, although because it doesn't have a macro setting, it's quite difficult to do. Yeah, I did think about that. I don't know the TOs. I think the main guy is Callum Wright. But yeah, definitely. I suppose if no one's playing, I might give it them to do a little walk around, or I'll wait till the round where I get whooped very quickly and go do it. But yeah, it's a fantastic little product. But not entirely sure how to put it into making battle reports at the moment. Yeah, it would be good if it had some sort of macro thing. But I don't even know if adding a macro lens filter would work on it, to be honest. I think that'd be quite difficult. But yeah, fantastic little product. It was actually a real hesitation when I started deciding to do live streams. So I say I was live streaming because I thought it'd be convenient to make content. However, it's actually not been easy setting it up, trying to get the 2 webcams to work and the graphics to work. But it's happening now. It's just annoying when I want to use my laptop elsewhere. There's a lot of stuff to disconnect. So the Osmo is an ideal vlogging camera for that. And it's a shame because I suppose this is coming out in 1080p, not the 4K that I have been able to do in the past. But hopefully it'll make things a little bit more regular. So I'm just adding some white now onto the details on this guy. So he has these raised pieces. I quite like them to be white because they just stand out a bit. And they're very much the markings of the unit, so it makes them a bit easier to tell apart when they're quite bright. Last chance to get an Ed cam. Oh, to be honest, mate, I just want to strap a GoPro to you all day. Like you see those videos where dogs run to the beach. You could be that for me for the day. That's the toilet shots. I don't even want to know, mate. Don't even want to know. Right. I'm always in two minds about when I do painting about putting the model forward. So the gao-rael sniper as a miniature, you can see that he's kind of it's over his body. Don't even know if it work on this cam. No, that's equally not as good. Yeah, so a lot of his body has been covered by his arms, and it makes it quite difficult to paint at times. But I find that painting the individual pieces just takes so long, and then to glue it afterwards, such a ball ache that it's not worth doing unless it's a display piece or a competition piece. And I suppose, as we've said earlier, with the sculpts of Corvus Belli changing and getting better, especially to put together, the likelihood of being able to do them disassembled is you're very much going to be working with not a lot, I imagine. Dun, dun, dun. Let's switch and see if I can give you guys a decent shot. It's a little bit. Lighting's not fantastic on that, but a little bit better. Very quick tabletop quality that I'm just going for here. Nothing too fancy, to be honest. How are we doing? How long per model? Well, these guys don't seem to be taking long at all. I reckon I could probably get the two of these finished tonight. What time did I start? An hour. Maybe these guys, maybe 3 hours to get the two of them done. Because I think the straps are going to take me quite a while, unfortunately. The thing that's slowing me down at the moment is that I definitely have made this paint too thin. It's very good for sort of like highlighting, I guess, at the minute. It's quite blending sort of paint. Yeah, I suppose I don't spend much longer than that if I'm just getting it ready for the tabletop. They are much better quality than what they used to be, which is good, but I just want to get them out, to be honest. So, we've had Adepticon this week. What are you guys excited about that was revealed? What do you like the look of? Personally, I think that so it's best and worst. That Imandino lady, I thought she was fantastic. Worst was the trooper, the orc trooper, doing the halt sign. I thought he looked such a ridiculous pose. If he hadn't have had his leg up, I might have been able to be convinced, but I thought he looked absolutely shocking. Not keen at all. Just realising I've missed some bits, so I'm going back around with the white for these little notches on him, on his wrist. Right, I'm going to take that white that I've done, and now just going to go over all where the symbio armor is so that I can get really sharp, bright highlight when I do the washes. So I only do washes on the symbio armor, so a super easy way of picking out all those details. It's kind of made for it, really. Like it looks effective if you layer the washes. You can use a couple of different ones, and then you're done, good to go. The ideal time to be watching though, mate, if you're babysitting, seeing what the new hotness is coming out, give you something to dream about when you're not able to leave the house. Right, gentlemen, I am out. Hey, Bob, man. Are you getting games in, Rob? Are you keeping up? Because I know, well, I know especially with James, it was he was out for a long, long time. I wasn't sure whether you were still actively playing regularly. Yeah, a lot of people said that. I think they were quite hyped that it was the Zencha, but disappointed that it wasn't the profile they were after. Can't say I know too much about it. But I think they did that. I think strangely they did that with the oh, I can't remember the lady's name. It came in the IA starter box. The D. It began with that sound? No. Began with the D. So yeah, the choices sometimes are a little bit odd. Definitely some of the detail on some of these older minis aren't as good as what they used to be. Daying, that is right. Daying, yeah. Yeah, so they've been making some interesting choices in the first weapon choice that comes out, and I don't know whether that's a ploy because if that miniature hasn't been out before, they whack out the any profile, the least used one. You get that, and then later down the line, they put the weapon on it that you need and are regularly using, and not a lot of people like to proxy that much, so you end up buying another one. Yeah, yeah, definitely, mate, definitely. I agree with you. Um, Good business tactic, but slightly frustrating. Has anyone seen the new, I suppose, read the rules for Stratus Cloud? I've not actually caught up yet in terms of what that piece of equipment does, and it'd be interesting to know what it does if you've read it, because I think some people are a bit worried about it. Bob is hot on the rules. Just giving these a good shake. They seem to have really separated my Fugan orange and my Cassadora yellow. Right. I'm not sure whether to start highlighting the cloak before I start getting all this wash everywhere, or start washing. I find this in painting something that keeps me really motivated is doing all of the different colors, even if it's just a base layer, because it looks like it's getting done, and that kind of keeps me going forward. I think if I spend too much time just doing, say, the cape and getting that finished in one go, it actually puts me off a little bit, and I don't paint as much. Nige, you're asking about paints. I've definitely moved over to Vallejo. Um, definitely moved over, and I think that's generally because I just get the colors that I see Angel Heraldez using in his books. It seems easier for me to follow the recipes from that way, because strangely, I think in Infinity you have a lot less people going outside of the normal color schemes, and I'm one of them. I don't come up with my own really ever, so yeah, generally Vallejo, I think they're pretty good, and I like the squeezy bottles. Um, it works for me. Yeah, yeah, man. Finished not perfect. It's something I've definitely been trying to move towards, because I remember like well, even a couple of years ago, I would spend so long on a single miniature, like Tau. I'd have like a huge infantry army of Tau, and I'd do one miniature at a time, and I'd spend like hours and hours on it, and it'd look okay, and then I'd have to do the other one, and I just didn't end up doing it. Um, so yeah, definitely finished not perfect. It's good to get them tabletop ready. I like them to look as nice as I can get them in a reasonable time, but you know, you can hardly bloody see it when you're playing. And I'm definitely no display painter. Although, in a couple of weeks' time, I'm actually going on to some lessons. Um, Siege Studios are coming to Element Games, and I managed to get a place. So for 2 days, I'm doing a painting course on NMM and airbrushing. So I'm quite excited for that, really, because I definitely could improve in many, many areas. So yeah, I'll be excited to see how that goes, really. Right, my bros, I'm going to quickly go fill up my beer back up, and then I'll be back. So I'll see you in a minute. Hello, I'm back after grabbing a quick beer top up. Well, the tasty shipyard ale tonight. So thanks for hanging around. Do not panic, Nigel. I am back. So you're just saying about you working out colour scheme before you even had a go. I think that's a pretty good idea to work out. I am definitely not one of those experimental people that paint and then and work it out as you go along. It's not for me, I'm afraid, my man. So, but yeah, like I said before, I just do studio color schemes. I really um, don't do the making them own. Oh, they're saying that I had to go at making some of my own more out ones. Um, Purple skin. But I generally stick to the main big contrast. Like I've got a color wheel, but for the life of me, I barely use it. In terms of looking at kind of what contrasts. Don't really do it. Yeah, I need something to copy off. It just makes it a lot easier, really. Have you got any further with your invincible army at the minute? Haha. Crack on, mate. Get your paints out and paint along. Oh yeah? How come? What's made you disappointed, mate? We can use my other profession and I can counsel you on this. Yeah, I mean OSS are hella strong at the minute. Um, but certainly not invincible. Um, I think it's just knowing the right pieces you're going for, and I think that they've got the potential to be really, really strong. So I would argue, well, even that then I suppose because they've got extra orders. I was going to say often I think you'll see them in a limited insertion list, and then I was going to say that the Xenotech missions generally will bone that because you end up spending so many orders on trying to put down that bloody multi-scanner. But I suppose with the OSS, you generally have extra orders because I think is it tactical awareness or NCO? I think they get to use that. Right. So I am pretty much ready to start doing some washes, and you can't see that. I don't even know where the camera is yet. I think in future I'll try and get a lower camera down, guys, just so that you can see the painting a bit more. I'm not sure what it's like full screen, but I imagine if you're on a mobile device, you're going to struggle. So apologies. So when I do my armor for these Tohaa, I start with white, so I paint it down white, and then I do a wash of bright yellow, or I suppose orange in this case, and I try and keep it pretty thin because I know in a couple of minutes' time I'm going to be going over with a red, and then that goes into the crevices of that wash. So I do this so thinly. When I said it was orange, it does come out as yellow. I'll just do a little bit more, and then I'll let you guys see. So, not sure if you can see that. I think it's not helping because of the light, so I'll just turn that off a second. Nope, even that's no better. I'll have to figure something out. But I believe it's the autofocus on this camera. So, just have a quick look. If I can knock the autofocus off on this. Right, that's not necessarily helping. So I was going to try and knock off the autofocus on the top, but because I'm running two Logitech cams at once, I've had to uninstall the driver on one of them, and unfortunately it's knocking off the autofocus on the one on my face. So whilst I'm sure you'd all like to see me a little bit more blurry, it's not the best for viewing, so I'll have to come later. How to mention you in my Tawny review. Okay, so everybody at Vapnatech, at Vapnatech Incursion, Nigel had his first win. He was very, very happy. It was very well deserved, and it was the first time he brought ISS, IA. He did well, and I came last place, so he smashed it. He had 14 orders in a limited insertion tournament. There was a few decent players there, and he is very salty that the world doesn't know. But I think after that, Nige, I think I'm not sure whether you played very well on the day, whether it's because you played against limited insertion, or whether people didn't know exactly how to handle them yet. But I think after that you had a very bad Northern Open. You had a very bad Masters with them. Yes, yeah, you beat Radek. So um, it's interesting because I think so. I suppose the reason I bring up that you had a bad couple of times afterwards is because I think everyone was talking about how broken they were because of being able to have the orders. And I suppose you're talking about the same um, with OSS now, that they have a certain amount of orders, they have a certain amount of, I suppose, ways of swinging the game. And I think that, it's very useful, but I don't think they're invincible. Um, I really struggled against them with TAC because um, the MSV level 3 was brutal. Um, however, I've always beaten Russ when he's brought them. So that was my Tohaa, and I'm trying to think of the specific things that worked well. I was just running and doing the mission. I played against him when we did supplies. So I wonder. Well, I suppose. Do you have any sense of where you're going wrong with it? Yellow is down. It's a real shame you guys can't see. I'm trying to think of ways in which it would be easier to help. Yeah, shock armor does help. Got a lot of no wounding cap in those guys. Let's see if this does any better. See if it... Get rid of this view counter because clearly it's wrong. We've got people involved. Yeah, I didn't realise James took OSS that day. spam in general, I think, is difficult to deal with, regardless of the army that it comes from, um, because you've always got more to fall back on and still do things. Right, I've just put this on. This is very, very strong. So I think I'm going to end up thinning down this fugue and orange before I wreck these minis. I think it would be interesting to see the mix of people now who would play limited insertion with those two armies, because I think they'd be incredibly popular choices because it puts you at such an advantage. I think when playing against them, they are genuinely the first things that I would be aiming for to die, because it's just nuts. I do really like limited insertion as a format, though. I know a lot of people don't. I think a lot of people are upset when Interplanetaria did limited insertion. However, I think I played it for about 6 months and really, really enjoyed it because games were quicker. You could bring toys that you can't necessarily fit into a 300-point army because you're trying to squeeze more orders in. I really, really like it as a system, but I am also for the argument of everyone should be able to play what they want to play. But every now and again, I think it's good to crack out a limited insertion. Because, yeah, yeah, I suppose at the weekend, I played Luke Flaherty, and I suppose it was nice to sort the avatar out on the table. And you play against those sort of things. I don't think the UK has as many people playing tags as you get in the US or Australia. So it's a good way to get people to crack them out. And you forget how annoying and a pain in the ass they can be. I think mathematically, I think it's always better to take more units. But this is what the game's based on, is tags. It's those cool, awesome robots. It's the most fantastic pieces of art that we have. So it's good. And I played against the Gorgos for the first time in forever, and it was surprising just how difficult I found playing against it. You get the feeling the US hates tag. Do you, Podman? I thought listening to the podcast that that sort of the US were all over sensor, were all over those triangulated fire, and that they're all over tags, but I might be wrong. And yeah, Luke, I think you've got a good point there. I think having less orders, it makes you have to think about that sort of those choices a lot harder because you haven't got that redundancy to fall back on. The podcasts I listen to, Bodman, quite a few actually. I'll just get the list up because there are so many. So I listen to White Noise in Australia. And then on my other regulars, I've got the Limited Insertion podcast with Mike, Mayacast, Flash Pulse. You guys are on there, Totally Crit, Total Reaction, Lost a Lieutenant, and Personal Flash Paper. So quite a few of them. I genuinely listen to a lot of podcasts. I can get through a lot when I'm painting, you see. Yeah. Although I've never never been into it as much as they are. Sensor. I'm starting to see the benefit of it. I don't know. Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely huge generalizations. I guess just thinking like I've heard arguments about it revealing TO camo, which I think is fine, but if you were to just sit there censoring on an empty space, I think you're wasting orders. I think if you're maybe on the other side of an objective, it's probably not a bad idea. Um, but I think you'd mainly use it, or I would mainly use it for if you saw a load of camo tokens on the floor, just to reveal that what that was. Right, I need to mix a grey up for my weapon, and I can't remember what grey I've been using. +6 to discover rolls. Is that the case? I mean, that's pretty damn good when you think about it. Very, very good. But I don't, as long as you could see them, I suppose. Right, let's go for a London grey. Yeah, yeah. I think if you catch, it's probably very situational, and if you catch someone out with it, they are going to be pissed. Very, very pissed. Do you mean the auto reveal, Bobman? I think if you censor in that area, everything in the area is revealed. Yeah. Six of both. I think discover and Zoc. Yeah, I think you still have to roll for it, and then anything within that Zoc gets brought up. I suppose, Nige. Yeah, you're talking about these fire teams, and we are getting more and more diverse fire teams. Back in the day, it used to be just 5 of the same guy, and then we've got mixed fire teams. Now we've got wild cards. We've got all sorts going on. What are your opinions on wild cards and mixed fire teams? Because I think they can be very good. Thematically, I'm not sure about it. Yeah, yeah. I suppose Tohaa were the first sort of very mixed fire teams, and then I suppose you've got Animatakos. that needed someone else to lead it. Thematically, I'm not. I suppose thinking about like what you're saying, Nigel, there about hating the mixing of races. Um, it's one of the things that's really put me off Spiral Corps is that I don't want brawlers in it. I think the miniatures are great, but like I almost see them as this Tohaa sectorial as opposed to something different, and that's what puts me off the Merc factions is having those mixes. Um, I'm not keen on it. Not keen on it. Just thematically, I think game wise, if you're going to keep up and be competitive, we're gonna kind of have to. Um, what do you think will be the tipping point, Bob Man? What will be what will make it too much? It is expanding at a fast pace. I don't deny that. I think you're getting a lot of sectorials and a lot of different armies coming out in one go. So previously you'd have maybe a year between things, and then you're getting 5 at a time, 5 in a week, which is hard to keep up with um, if you don't play very, very regularly, if you're not very active on social media and keeping up to date with what's coming out. I think it is difficult to stay up with things. Um, I'm looking forward to a little bit of a slowdown just to get my head around things. Um, I'm just excited new minis really for the time being. Like really flesh out what we already have. Already having to match older sets to avoid power creep. I suppose um, is that power creep. It's certainly an indicator of power creep. I think you could argue it more strongly if they didn't update the older things. But what it suggests is that what's coming in now is more powerful. Um, some might argue that it's just giving different options as opposed to being more powerful. Um, introducing variety, but I certainly understand your point. Um, yeah, I understand that, Nigel. I'd be quite happy though for some people, for them to fill out some things because for people waiting for blackjacks for God knows how long, and then when they came, they were pretty damn awesome. So I'd be interested to wait and see. Yeah, no, I understand what you mean, Bob man. Um, I would be interested in terms of thinking about releases, about how if they were releasing Aristea frequently, whether or not next year, every month or 2 months, we'll have sort of an Infinity release, an Aristea release, and then an expansion box for Defiance. Um, Much in the way like Zombicide did lots of little add-ons, so I could see them doing that. Add-on boxes or new maps, maybe new missions for that in the little sort of pack you buy. Um, yeah. Right, I need to mix up some brown for the straps. I'm going to go with English uniform with the intention of washing it. I think, actually, no, flat earth. Flat earth is where it's at. Yeah, I think they're going to have to balance the releases. I think they'll really struggle otherwise. That was tan earth, not flat earth. Thank you, Adam, for subscribing. Everyone else who's in the chat, take note. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I suppose it's difficult now because I think, they bring out sort of 10 profiles, and then by the time that's done, they've almost moved on to the new thing. And I guess if they were to keep doing release after release for a single faction, then the difficulty you've got is no one else's faction is getting anything. And then it kind of gets lost in the ether and they move on. I'd be interested to see how they prioritize what they're making. I'm just now starting painting the straps on these guys, and I absolutely cannot get across to you guys how much I detest the straps on Tohaa. There are so many, they are so small. It really, really ruins the experience of painting them for me. Really, really hate it. So on the point you've just made, Luke, about having a box or with options, how would you feel about paying more for a single miniature but having different arms included? Because then I suppose you're going into the territory of having wasted pieces then. Much like buying a 4-pack of dudes just for the one guy in it. Yeah. Limit their design. Yeah, I suppose that's a point if you're kind of just having arm options, I suppose. You're not necessarily choosing the pose for each of those, and that is a shame. Yeah, I guess when you think about the models would then sort of look kind of very samey, it kind of then almost goes into the realm of these are, oh, excuse me, these are meant to be a elite sort of small tactical force that that are sort of being deployed, spec ops. So having them look very samey would be quite disappointing. Takes that uniqueness away from them. Oh, these straps look awful. Yeah, I agree, Bob man. I think it'd be even more noticeable because you'd only have like 10 guys and 2 of them look the same. Or the same pose anyway. Hey Dave. Yeah, I suppose that is certainly one way of doing it. If you had maybe a way of making it so that all the arms connected, that could work very interestingly. Um, arms, the wrist joints, I mean. So you had all these different poses with the different arms, and I suppose the only ones it wouldn't really work for is perhaps the sniper rifles. Um, but having them to be able to match up on wrist joints could work, maybe. But yeah, a weapon sprue pack might be better than having a pack of one model with 4 different arms. Yeah, I know what you're saying, Nige. We do go left to right of the table and sort of explain where everything is, but I think still I forget halfway through the game because he's not got a sniper rifle. I then forget what he's got. Interestingly, never. Uh, it's the different weapon choices that normally get me. Like when it's a HMG and it's still showing a combat rifle, or in particular when I no longer think that they're a paramedic or able to do the mission. I can't tell Aleph apart full stop, mate. um, there's some. I think when it's not your army, I think in general it's just quite difficult to tell anyway. So having the different weapons would help because you can at least see what they are or what you think they are. Yeah, I understand that, but I still don't think I'm up for having um, the same models just with different arms. I would expect it now with digital sculpting to be a lot easier. That almost every model could come out in boxes of 4. You know, sack off blister packs all together and just have them come out. It would become expensive, but it's certainly doable. Evening, Silence Alpha. Nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Nigel, how old is that box though, I suppose? Yeah, I know what you mean. SWC boxes, they seem to do it quite well. Um, but with everything else, that seems it seems quite difficult. Yeah, it's definitely been done. Okay. I thought when you said Aguasiles, I was thinking sort of ice storm mold. I find I find mixing minis in sets really frustrating. I got very confused when that Aleph box came out. Um, it kind of makes sense in the way that like if that's what you need to make the fire team, then it all comes as one. But as I was saying earlier, in terms of mixing fire teams, thematically I don't like the way it looks when you mix fire teams. Um, yeah, I mean, from my point of view, like I've been waiting for the tack wheel forever because it would actually make a nice different LT to the Rasail and make some options. So there are some very obvious choices that they don't seem to do, which confuses me. But I think they just jump from project to project because so much has come out so quickly that they almost can't backfill. Your video about the missing fuel box? No. Right, these highlights are coming out nice, but they're a little bit too bright. So I think I'm going to have to glaze over them. Mr. Holiday, I've not seen you in a very long time. Are you still playing Infinity at the moment? I know your group at Bolton sort of moved away from that a little bit. Right, I have another attempt at showing you guys how this is coming on, although it's likely that you're not going to be able to see it. It's just a bit too bright on the highlight, unfortunately. So I'm going to dampen it down again. That's okay. Okay, that's starting to look a lot better. So I've got really, really thin paint here. And I'm taking most of the paint off the brush. And I'm just glazing it over the top just to mute that yellow down, but still keep it as a nice bright highlight. I think if you're watching this and you haven't used or you don't use a wet palette, you are seriously missing a trick. I've started using wet palettes in the last, I don't know, maybe 3 months. I think I got my first one for Christmas, and then it wasn't very good, even though it was an art shop. Sort of, it's about 30 quid. It used paper to keep things alive. Now I've got the everlasting wet palette from Red Grass Miniatures, and I swear to God, it is the best thing I've ever used in terms of painting. So it uses a non-bacterial sponge that they've created that goes underneath their special wet paper, and it doesn't bleed like any of the other ones I've used before. So if you haven't got one or you thinking about upgrading, definitely go check out Red Grass Games because theirs is amazing. Thanks, Dave. It was a little bit of an oversight. I think it was a bit ambitious. I think I'm going to get back on it, and I think I will hopefully catch up. I was definitely on target for 2 months, so I've done about 60 miniatures. But as we're kind of going into May, I'm not back up to speed yet. So I think I can catch up though, because I've got a lot of tack to catch up with, and I don't think that's going to be difficult, because I think I can generally knock about sort of 5 of them a day out because they're so simple and easy to airbrush. So yeah, hopefully I'll get back on it and have a video for you guys in April. Yeah, ambitious as fuck was the thing. I think even in that original video, I changed out just to say that I would well, I can't remember exactly how many I said. It was something like maybe 100 less, maybe 265. So I think it's doable. I just need to get my ass into gear. I went through another sort of, well, I was explaining at the very beginning of the stream. I kind of got a little bit demotivated because I was losing so much that I didn't want to do any of the hobby. I needed a little bit of a break. But that is thoroughly over, and I should be back in the game soon. So, or the painting game, because I'm already back in the game. However, when you think about your sort of standards, Dave, mine is definitely not up to that. It's just tabletop version. No, Silence Alpha. So I am painting Tohaa. Unfortunately, it's just quite difficult to see because I haven't worked out yet how to. Oh, wrong way. Haven't quite worked out how to do my autofocus yet on this camera because the driver's not installed correctly. So I will sort something out, but and post some pictures at the end. So I'm painting a gao-rael sniper and a kotail with combi rifles. I've gone balls deep and ordered the box set. I like the look of it. I really want to try out the what do you call it? The Tagima with the Tricor. I think it'd be really interesting having a 5-man link, even though the limitations of that are quite strict. But I'm definitely willing to give it a go. I'm really excited that you can get a lot of Heliots in there. A lot of people are moving towards brawlers. I don't really want to have Humies with my aliens, but certainly willing to give it a go. I think I'm less worried about moving over to them now that the Symbiomate's got a debuff. I think if I couldn't have had 2 normal Symbiomates, then I wouldn't have moved away from them because that's kind of my crutch. But yeah, having one still with the armor 9, I think it's definitely worth taking. So I'm going to go give them a go when that box arrives. But I'll be painting them as normal Tohaa, as I've mentioned earlier, because all my Tohaa are done. When it comes to that symbiote mate change, I honestly don't care. I think that it was hilarious. I think when it came out, I think I saw a message in the Tohaa group, and someone said they are literally unplayable now. How dare they? How can we ever have this? It's bullshit. I played a game with them on Tuesday night, and it doesn't make a difference. I think it is probably one of the fairest ways that they could have brought them down. It's still fantastic having the Armor 9, the BTS 9. The only thing I don't like about it, from a game plan chance point, is that you have to obligatorily use it on the first one. I think if it's a choice, I'd much prefer that. Because I think very soon people are going to flash pulse them off, and it makes the symbio mate less effective, but you're still definitely going to take them because that guy with chain of command for that points cost, why the bloody hell not? Definitely. Yeah, I think it was a fair way of doing it, to be honest with you. I think it's going to bite me in the ass later, but I think adding a chance, element of chance, was probably the best thing they could have done. Yeah. Right, fellas, I'm out of beer, so I'm going to another break, and I will be back very shortly. If you haven't subscribed, please click the subscribe button. I'm trying to work out deals with Corvus Valley, and it makes a big makes a big difference. No, it was not the the paint water and beer water, two separate things. I'll be back in a bit, and then I'll answer your question or comment on what you're just saying. Hello, I am back. Ah, Nigel's gone. Um, so back to the Tohaa issue though. So there's a guy on. He's saying that they are unplay. He's leaving the game because Tohaa Symbiote mates got nerfed. Like I love Symbiote mates. I genuinely love them. They gave me some ability to make mistakes. It let me do some ballsy tricks and take a lot of risk. But I don't think them going ruins the game. And all my Tohaa, I'd still definitely play them. What it has done actually has made me think about taking more um, units that don't necessarily rely on them. So I think it's done quite good in just changing my line of thinking. Ah, beer. Nectar of the gods. So how is the stream doing? I've actually been pleasantly surprised that we've had a few people. It seems like a very nice very interactive first stream. So yeah, thanks for that for taking part, guys. We're kind of coming up to 2 hours and 40 minutes, and I have not finished these guys or anywhere near. I'm stuck doing the straps, and it is the worst part about Tohaa models. I think a lot of people are expecting once Tohaa Symbiomates got nerfed that the Gazis would follow. Do you guys think that we'll actually see a change to Mutts? Should we see a change to Mutts? I know everyone talks about them being broken. I think they're good. I think they're cheap. Do they really break the game? Everyone's sitting on very quiet. Yeah, neither can I, to be honest. They seem to have fallen about our favour. It's much like I know they do very different things. Guangxi, everyone used to ham load to them just because they were so cheap on the old regular orders. But I haven't seen them in a long time either. There are definitely distinct differences as I paint this gao-rael and this kotail, and you can tell the different age between the two. The straps on the kotail are significantly sharper. Bobman, I agree. There's the one part about that rule that I don't like. The auto use of it. I think very quickly people are going to learn how to strip it very quickly, which is a shame. So I think they're much more advantageous if you're going first, because at least you're getting a choice. If you're going second, I might even have a different list that's not built around that. Because primarily I would have had my defensive triad, skill missile launcher and a gao-rael sniper, sat up the top. So if anyone comes out, then they just blast them, risk free. It wastes orders, and it's no bother to me. The auto use of it screws me going second. But when I played them on Tuesday with the new rules, very, very aggressively, it worked like magic. I did not notice anything different. Excuse me. Most broken troop of the game. Yeah, I think they have the potential to be in good hands. They are good. They are. It's just they're just so bloody cheap. But again, yeah, I haven't seen them in a long time. I missed that, my man. I think it's hard to find time for hobbying, as you're sort of saying you haven't done it in a long, long time. I'm best when I get into a routine and just keep signing myself up to tournaments. Hmm. If, say for argument's sake, then, if mutts are broken, why have they not been fixed? If it's been like that for so long, I'd be interested to see the data that Corvus Belli collects to see what effect they're having on the game and how often they're taken. I don't know. They certainly, yeah, I agree with you, Science Lab. They're a pretty big toolbox. Got a lot going for them, that's for sure. That's interesting. So, what do you feel then if it's down to the limitations in the result of the faction? What don't hack have? Oh, MSV2. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm trying to remember the actual sequence. So it's pull your cards. Is it not pull your cards, roll your dice, choose your list? I think there is a chance that the feed is 5 minutes behind the chat. I'm getting some comments considerably later than after I've answered, which is interesting because there's only, well, there's not supposed to be any delay on it actually. That's how it's been set up anyway. Right, I'm on to buckles. Haha, it's not Dave. Getting there. Almost. I'll have to work out a way that you guys can see this. Yeah, I really like these, Dave. I've bought about 8 of these model holders. Um, I think they make a huge difference in terms of stability. I've seen people, if you didn't want to mount them on the base before, you cut a cork in half and glue them onto a plastic base, and then they fit normally. So I certainly would get them. I think they're great. Oh, that sounds painful. Silence, man. Much the same though. I think you can alpha strike with a fair few things. What was it that the Mutts did in that situation, Silence, that contributed you to not getting a first term? Ah, live streams, bringing everyone together. God, there's so many little bits on these guys, it is infuriating to paint. I'm actually dreading getting all the spiral to do. I think the new Dakinis are great, Dave. Also the Dakini link is sick. I quite like the Ghost Jumper level X who buffs them and gives them the stats. I think that's really interesting way of playing. Ladies, Bob, man, thank you for coming. Hopefully see you around soon. What time are we out? I'll probably call the stream in about 10 minutes, my man. So, if there's anything you guys want to discuss, hit me up now rather than later. But it's likely that I'll probably do a different set of streaming tomorrow. Not whilst I'm painting, but having a look at some products and maybe even have a look over the Adepticon things. Now that my stream deck is here. One of the things I find really annoying about the Tohaa models is the lines on the cloth. They are so small and fiddly that they're just crap to paint. Really, really crap. So hopefully in the new spiral miniatures, though, that's a better feature as well. That's good to know, because it actually makes me dread painting more Tohaa. If I didn't like them so much, I probably would have sacked them off. Did they not show the Zon Nautica in the video yesterday? Silence. Pretty sure it was shown at Adepticon. Not the miniature itself, but the artwork for it, suggesting that it's very soon. I realise it's still not out, which is frustrating though. Especially with such a cool concept, you thought it would be one of the things that they release almost instantly. Ah, okay. Yeah, the puppets definitely need to go soon. They are such an awesome unit. I played against them with Chris Carter, and they were just phenomenal. Um, the fact that they're specialists and their weapon choices were brilliant. I would love to play something like that. It's what's making me so excited for the I think the Reeks escorts, although I know they're not the same. Night, Dave. Hopefully see you around soon. Yeah, I agree. I agree. They are important for that faction. Gentlemen, we are coming up to 10 o'clock, and I don't think I'm going to do any more painting tonight. So with my trusty wet palette, I'm going to close the lid and probably come back to it tomorrow. Thank you very much for taking part in the first inaugural stream. I've had a great time chatting to you guys. Hopefully at some point I'm going to make a little Google Hangouts video so that if you want to come on and actually physically talk at the same time, that will be able to happen as well. I will probably be back on tomorrow to do some reviews, live streaming as well. So keep an eye out and make sure you're subscribed and that you've ticked that bell button next to the subscribe button so that you get notifications of when I go live. So thank you very much, and I will see you guys soon.